Lighting a YouTube setup? Easy. Okay, not always. So maybe better use natural light. It looks great until the sun decides to screw up your image and you rage quit. Over the years, I've tried tons of different lights and setups for my videos, and after all that, I just wanted to find a simple lighting setup that actually works without all of this. Today I'm testing this tiny 60-watt light and a mini spotlight to see if they're enough for YouTube. Can they compete with daylight? Can only these two lights light up a dark room? And I will also show you some fun creative stuff you can do with them. As always, full disclosure, SmallRig sent me these lights for free. They didn't tell me what to say or not to say, so I'm basically just using these lights for my setup and sharing my honest opinion. So this is going to be the starting point of our first setup. We have some daylight in the room, we have a window on camera left. Just to begin, I mounted the tiny SmallRig softbox and I placed it as close to my face as possible without being in the frame, obviously. And to kind of naturally extend the window and the daylight, I also put it on my right side and not on the left side to make it look as natural as possible. And one of the cool things about the C version, so the color version, you can exactly dial in not only the color temperature, but also the tint correction. So sometimes thick windows can have some really heavy coating that leads to more green light. So I think it's handy if your lights can kind of match that. So this is where we landed at. The light is at probably only like 15 or 20%, I think. And the softbox is really tiny. Here's my hand for scale. Now, because it's so close to my face, it is kind of soft, but if we zoom in, we can still see a bit of a harsh nose shadow. And also the shiny spots on my face are quite obvious. So the next thing I did was replace the light modifier. And as you can see here, I'm just running my light off batteries with a power bank. I wouldn't even need the power bank. You can get, I think, 45 minutes out of full power. And I'm mounting this umbrella I have. This is quite nice because you get like a mini book light. The light bounces off the umbrella silver inside and gets diffused. And this leads to softer light. And it's pretty handy that this adapter comes with a hole to put in the umbrella. I'm also adding some negative fill on the other side to just control the light a bit more, add in some contrast on my face, and I'm placing it as close to the camera and myself as possible without being in the frame. And as you can see here, this is quite a nice result. With the negative fill, we have some more contrast on the darker side of my face. And this is the before and after, left only with the tiny softbox, and on the right, the umbrella and the negative fill. I actually really like this result already, but now I want to see if the tiny spotlight can hold up in daylight. So I'm just putting this on a tripod and I'm using one of the 1/4-inch mounting holes to mount it to a magic arm. And I'm using one of those window gobos inside to kind of fake a window. And this is what it looks like. Now, it's not super realistic, to be honest, because a window light would have to be much brighter. So we're not really going for realism, but if you ask me and we compare the before and after, I actually kind of like what the window gobo does, even if it's not super real. It just breaks up the boring white wall in the back a bit and makes it a bit more interesting. And this is our daylight setup with just two lights. Now let's continue with our nighttime setup. We're starting off again with the tiny softbox, and this time with the grid, just to control the light a bit more. And also I'm using the RF10C in the background to create a nice background slash. And here we have the first result. Now, I know this doesn't look great. The light on my face is just quite harsh. It's now more obvious than before on the daylight setup because it is the only light source on my face. There is no kind of fill light from the ambient light. And so the other side of my face is quite dark. It's quite dramatic. And also the key and background light have the same color temp, around 6000 Kelvin. And so there really isn't any color contrast. And so I changed the 60C's color temperature from around 6000 to 3200, which made the light much warmer. And then of course I adjusted the white balance in my camera, and this is the result. Again, this doesn't look too great because I overdid it on purpose just to prove a point or to show you what the effect is. We now have a really strong color contrast from my warmer face and the cool background, but it is just too much for my taste. So I adjusted the key lights color temperature again to around 4000 and adjusted my camera again, and this is the new result. And this already looks much better. We still have some color contrast, but it's not too much as before or too boring as the first image. So I quite like the color here, but I'm still not 100% happy with the contrast. So this whole area here is quite dark, also the other side of my face. And also, to be honest, I'm actually cheating. As you might notice in the background here, I have a desk light, a Philips Hue light that is just running on 100% to give the background some light. But to be fair, I'm turning it off, and now you can see it's even darker. And even though the light on my face looks still okay, it is really dark in the background. So what I'm doing next is again changing the light modifier to my good old umbrella. And as you can notice here already, the room really lights up because the umbrella is much bigger and spills the light around the room. Now this might not be great if you have a really controlled, well-lit background, because this is going to mess up everything, but in this case, it's actually great because we get a lot more light on the background. And also, as you can see here, the light on my face is now much softer. So the dark part of my face is now not as dark anymore. We're lighting up the room, and now we have also a softer light on my face. And this looks pretty good. Now, to be honest, I'm still cheating because there is another light on in the background. This is just a monitor light. So I'm also turning this off. And this is the result with just the two lights. The light on my face looks good, I think, and the background slash looks nice as well. The background levels are just a bit too low for my taste. But let's be real, you probably have some other light in the background that you can use, whether that just be a light bulb or an LED tube. But something like this just makes the background a bit more interesting, and also it gives me this nice kicker light on the face. But you could also totally just use this setup right here with just the two lights and some background cheating light. So those were the two YouTube setups. Now let's do some fun creative stuff. So that was using the same two lights, but just in a different way. But let's be honest, it wouldn't have felt the same without the music. And finding the right music is usually the part that I like the least, but lately I've been using MusicBed, and it's made the process way easier. It doesn't feel like browsing generic stock tracks, it's more like discovering real songs that fit my videos and actually inspire me. A new feature I really appreciate, you can just type in a song name and MusicBed finds similar tracks you can actually use in your videos. And with the link in the video description, you get a 14-day free trial, plus you can license 3 songs that you can use even if you cancel the trial, so there is no risk, you can just try it. Now let's break down these shots real quick. For the camera shots, I used the RC60C from the top with the softbox and the grid to really control the light and prevent spill. And I used the RF10C from the back as a kind of dynamic kicker light. And I also created this nice lens flare with it. So for product shots, this is really cool because you don't even need power. You can just run it off batteries, and also you don't need a lot of space. For those shots here, I used the RF10C just as a background light. You can set it to red, orange, blue or white. The beam is actually surprisingly wide, even if it's almost right up to the wall. This makes it really flexible for small spaces. So, time to wrap this up. The SmallRig RC 60C performed really well during my tests. With a 60-watt light, you're not meant to match strong sunlight, but that's not really what it's made for. For small studios and controlled setups, 60 watts is more than enough. I was a bit skeptical at first about whether an internal battery is actually useful, but the more I used it, the more I appreciated not having cables everywhere. It is also super lightweight, which makes it easy to mount anywhere. Now, some of you might be wondering about the fan noise of the light, because yes, it has a fan and it is audible in a silent room. And the light is right next to me, running at like 15% with the fan on. I'm just gonna let you listen. One more thing to note, the RC60C does not have a Bowens mount. You can get an adapter to use Bowens mount attachments, but I would definitely recommend just getting an umbrella instead. It's cheap and it gives you great light quality. You could also go for the RC60B. This is the bicolor version. Both are great solutions. The 60C is fun for RGB effects, and you can also tweak in magenta and green shifts. But if you just need a high quality flexible white light, the 60B might even be the better choice, as it's also a bit cheaper. There are a couple of different versions. This is the edition with all the attachments, but you could also get the light edition, which comes with just the light and the reflector. The grip I haven't really used, and the battery clip is really nice to have, to be honest, but you could also mount the battery in a different way. But the thing that makes a big difference is this mounting adapter. It makes using the light much easier, and you can also attach something like an umbrella. The RF10C, I'm a big fan of this thing. It feels super robust. It is a great tool for adding background separation, product shots, or creative lighting in controlled dimmer light conditions. The adjustable beam makes it really versatile even in small spaces. It also has 3 mounting holes, which is super handy for attaching it in different ways. Of course, at 10 watts it's not super bright, but if you do a lot of YouTube videos or product shots, having a compact light like this to add some texture is just really nice. Overall, these are solid, affordable lights that get the job done for YouTube and small setups. And as a bonus tip, you can even fit everything in this one single case, so you have this very simple compact setup to go. So that's been it for this one. I hope I could help you improve your lighting setup. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.